On AM 1130 by 99.9 FM, Prescott, Chino Valley, and Paulden 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, the talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA. It's
Hammer Time.
Waking Up with the YCCA. Hammer Time is brought to you by Lawhorn Plumbing, Verde Valley Alarm Services, Prescott Home Safety, Greenlee Designer Surfaces, Get Right Mitigation, Franklin Plumbing, The Blind Brothers, Made to Order, Vicente Landscaping, Barrett Propane, and Badger Roofing. And now from the studios of KQNA, it's Hammer Time, Waking Up with the YCCA. Here's the Executive Director of the Yavapai County Contractors Association, Sandy Griffiths.
Good morning, Prescott. Welcome to Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association. You normally hear, instead of my voice, I'm Mike Enders, by the way. Normally you're listening to Miss Sandy Griffiths, our executive officer, but as you're probably aware, she's had a little bit of an issue with her Achilles heel, including an operation and soft casts and hard casts. And this morning, she happens to be down in the valley getting the hard cast removed. So she'll be up and running, pun intended, in no time at all. So we will look forward to her coming back next weekend. Next weekend, by the way, I will be out of town, so we're just going to flip-flop, and she'll be handling the program solo as I am today. So we appreciate your willingness to stay with us, and I think my engineer has something to say.
What happens when she doesn't show up and you don't show up?
Boy, you've got a real problem because you're going to have to do the program by yourself.
How much does it pay?
Yeah, well, we need to talk about that off air.
Oh, okay.
But I'll give you a clue.
I'll have my people call your people.
It's not much. But before we take our first break, I just wanted to reflect back on last week's program, in which Sandy was here, and we had Summit 4x4 here talking about the Trails for Tatas. And I just wanted to pass on that their Tuesday event at Culver's in the evening, I went by to support that, and it was jam-packed. They had tons of people there, so we were glad for that success. And then, of course, on Saturday they had the 4x4 runs, lunch, and then the auction. And, of course, all those proceeds were to help defray the breast cancer issues here in Prescott. So that money stays local, and they've done a great job. Anxious to hear with their final tally, but I know they were hoping to close in on $100K for this year. So we hope that they had a successful auction and turnout. So without any further ado, we've got a great program lined up for you this morning. I think I'll just kind of tease you a little bit and say that I think most listeners have a fireplace, potbelly stove, wood-burning stove in their residence, and this will be a program that's of perfect interest for you. So without any further delay, we're going to take a quick break. Again, you're listening to Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association. And we're happy to be airing on Talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA 1130 AM, 99.9 FM, and 95.5 FM. So please stay tuned for some great messages from our ever so valuable sponsors. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, Waking Up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Good morning, Prescott. Again, my name is Mike Enders. Welcome to Hammer Time. Sandy is not going to be here this morning because she's getting her cast removed down in the big city of Phoenix, but she will be joining us next week. But it's my pleasure this morning to be able to interview and share with you Prescott Home Safety, LLC, Mr. Jeff Archer, the owner. Welcome to Hammer Time.
Thanks, Mike. It's good to be here, and appreciate you.
You betcha. And you've been with us before, but a lot of people probably are, if they were listening to the previous programs, need to rehear some of the information that you bring to the table on chimneys and dryer vents, wood-burning stoves, wood-burning fireplaces, gas fireplaces, etc. So without further ado, I'm just going to let you share with our folks a little bit about what your company does.
Yeah. Well, to get into it, just a little bit about myself first. I was born and raised in the Prescott area, born at Bi-Regional Medical Center back in 1984. Been here all my life.
Hold on, folks. We've got a native amongst us.
Yeah, there's not too many of us left. But, so once I graduated high school, got into the fire service, and I've been a full-time firefighter. I guess I started in the fire service back in 2003, so a little over 2 decades I've been doing the firefighter thing. And, the light bulb kind of came on after seeing all these bad things happen with chimney fires and dryer vent fires and this kind of stuff, that there was a need in the community. So that was kind of what I started doing on the side as a firefighter, and formed the company in 2021, and been building it ever since. And it was supposed to just be a side gig, and it's blossomed into something way more than I could have ever expected.
Well, congratulations. And which fire service were you working with, CAFMA?
I've worked for several agencies around the Prescott area. Started out with the Forest Service, worked here locally in Prescott, worked up in Williams a little bit, and reserve with Mayor Fire, full-time with Groom Creek, City of Prescott. So I've kind of bounced all over the place.
You know all the guys.
Yeah.
So now are you still doing that, or has this become a full-time endeavor?
Nope, still in the fire service. And actually, the company's been blessed enough that we've grown to the point where I also employ 2 other off-duty firefighters.
So they can pick up the slack when you have to go to work.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's terrific. That's terrific. So you said, and that's a perfect example of a need forming an opportunity that you're able to see firsthand fires in residences caused by buildup in their flues and whatnot.
Right.
So explain to people exactly wood versus gas, because I think a lot of people think, oh, gosh, I don't have a wood-burning fireplace, so I don't have to worry about the creosote buildup, et cetera. But that's not necessarily true.
Right. Yeah. So as far as gas appliances go, we do service and repair gas fireplaces. But with those units, all the major manufacturers say that they should be serviced annually. And so we come in and we call it our tune-up service, just like you would take your vehicle in for a tune-up. We'll come in and go through the whole unit and check all the major components that do wear out. We also check for gas leaks, carbon monoxide leaks, that kind of stuff, just to make sure the unit is 100% safe for the winter months. Then the other thing to think about is that the gas company also says that all major heating appliances should be serviced annually. So a lot of people automatically think to their furnace in their house, but the gas company also says that those fireplaces should also be taken care of.
Absolutely, because gas is indiscriminate. It doesn't matter whether there's a leak at the fireplace or a leak at the stove oven or range or at the furnace. A leak is a leak, and it's going to be deadly. So that's one of the things that you guys cover when you come out, is taking a look at that gas appliance for the fireplace.
Right. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So then let's move into the wood issue.
Oh, boy. Lots of issues with the wood burners.
Whole different ballgame.
Yep. So, the big thing that people think about with wood-burning appliances is the chimney fire, right? So anytime that wood burns, all that smoke that's going up the chimney contains a bunch of little particles of smoke, which builds up on the inside of the chimney, and we call that creosote. And creosote buildup can be dependent on so many different things. The quality of wood probably being the number one issue. So for my wood stove at my house, the only thing that goes in there is well-cured wood, which typically, most of the industry standards for cured firewood is going to be less than 20%. But with the dry climate that we live in, you can get moisture content in your firewood down around 10% or less, and if you're in that range, you're good to go for burning that wood. But the other issue is the species of wood. So the only thing that goes in mine is oak and juniper. I don't ever burn pine. I do have lots of customers that burn pine. You just have to be mindful that you're going to need more routine maintenance with pine. than any of the other species like elm and eucalyptus and things like that. They really can create some problems inside of that chimney and create more creosote buildup.
So how often, for example, if you're burning oak, which is cleaner burn, and someone is burning eucalyptus or pine, what's the difference in buildup times? For example, should they be looking every 6 months?
Well, it's more, time frame is less of an issue as compared to quantity of wood.
Gotcha.
And so the general rule of thumb is regardless of what type of wood you're burning, every cord of wood. And for those listeners who don't know what a cord is, it's a measure of volume, and it's 4 feet by 4 feet by 8 feet. So if you have a stack of firewood in your backyard that measures 4 foot by 4 foot by 8 foot, that's a cord.
Gotcha.
And so the general rule of thumb is every cord of wood, you need to look at getting a cleaning done. But I've had some customers go through 2 cords of wood and had hardly any buildup inside of their chimney. And that's because they were burning that good quality dry wood, that oak, that juniper that was less than 10% moisture content.
Gotcha. And going through a cord of wood, again, it depends on lifestyle and how much somebody's using it. But especially if they're depending on their fireplace for their heating and the structure, you can go through a cord pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's your primary heat source, absolutely. And if it's a absolutely cold winter, you're going to be going through it for sure. So
now the other thing that, from a wood burning standpoint, do you run into many wood stoves and or potbelly stoves out in the outlying areas? Yeah, I would. Well, even in town, we're seeing a lot of freestanding wood stoves, is what we call them. And I would say out of the wood burning units that we're servicing, I would say probably over 50% of them are freestanding wood stoves. Yep. So also some people have propane heaters. And of course, they have to have the exhaust stacks also. How does the propane heat as far as cleaning for stacks? Is that necessary? As far as, just to make sure I understand the question, are you talking about like a furnace or like a hearth appliance? I'm talking about a hearth appliance. Yeah, so really there's not a lot of difference between natural gas and propane. Gotcha. Those units do have to be designed specifically for the fuel type. So you can't, for example, install a natural gas hearth appliance into a home that's serviced by propane. Gotcha. The gas pressures are different, but most of the manufacturers will make conversion kits to go either to natural gas to propane or vice versa. And I know back east they have oil burning furnaces. I don't think I'm aware of those being out here. Do you ever run into that? The only 2 times I've seen oil burning appliances are in automotive shops, and it's where they're using the used motor oil to heat the shop. Interesting. And they do make used motor oil burners specifically for using that fuel type. Learn something new every day. I had no idea that would be combustible, so to speak. So, well, that's terrific. Well, we're going to take a quick break here before we proceed because we've got a lot more information to share. Again, you're listening to Hammer Time, brought to you by the Yavapai County Contractors Association. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths. Welcome back to Hammer Time. We're having a great conversation with Mr. Jeff Archer, who owns Prescott Home Safety, LLC. Main method of their endeavors is cleaning of chimneys, dryer vents, etc. And we were just talking about some of the chimney issues that they've had. How many, since you're in the fire service, how often do we see chimney fires here in the Prescott area? Oh, I would say in those winter months we see throughout the Quad City area, it would not be uncommon to have 2 or 3 chimney fires a week. Really? Throughout, and that's throughout the Quad City area. During the peak of the burn season, I would say that that's not unreasonable at all. Wow. Yeah. So tell people a little bit about what to expect, how to determine if you've got a chimney fire going on, what your best method of handling that is.
other than calling 911.
Right. Well, if you do have a chimney fire, you still do need to call 911. The fire crews need to come out and they need to check to make sure that that chimney fire was actually contained to the chimney and didn't extend into any other part of the house. But if you do have a chimney fire, it's going to sound a lot different, first of all. It's going to sound like a jet engine in your house. It's going to be loud, and the best thing to do is to go outside and take a peek up at the top of your chimney, and if you see fire blowing out the top, there's your indicator.
You got a problem.
Right? Yep. So if that happens, you need to take away, in the fire service, we talk about the three things that you need to sustain combustion. We call it the fire triangle, right? So you need heat, oxygen, and a source of heat. So if you eliminate one of those things, the fire goes out. So one of the things that you need to do is choke down the fire, turn down the air so that it can't breathe anymore. Another good option is to just take a pot of water or even just a cup of water, open up the firebox and throw that cup of water in there. It's going to convert to steam. All that steam is going to go up the chimney.
Interesting.
And snuff out the chimney fire.
Very interesting.
Yep. But definitely call 911. They're going to send at least one fire truck out there, if not more. And they need to just check to make sure that fire is out, first of all, and didn't spread to any other part of the house.
Because that being superheated, if you've got an old stack that's 20 years old or 30 years old, and it's gone through a lot of burnings, it's possible that superheated experience, so to speak, could breach that existing piping, and all of a sudden, whammo, you've got a problem in your attic.
Right, absolutely. And so a chimney fire can be, the heat inside of a chimney fire can be in excess of 2,000 degrees.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and these chimneys, whether they're like a metal prefab chimney or a ceramic clay chimney, they're just not designed to withstand that level of heat.
Right.
And the ceramic chimneys are a particular concern because they have an effect anytime they have a chimney fire called thermal shock. And without getting into too much of the chimney nerd stuff that I really like to get into, I'll try to keep it simple. But basically, the inside of that chimney that's being exposed to the 2,000 degrees, it's trying to expand faster than the outside of the chimney can, and it's going to crack.
Gotcha.
If there's ever been a chimney fire inside of a clay chimney, it's guaranteed to be cracked. And actually, I have a YouTube channel, and you can go to that channel and look at a video. I went down to a brickyard in Phoenix, and I picked up one of those sections of clay flue tile. And all I did was wad up some newspaper in the bottom of that chimney. And you got to think about it, when newspaper burns, it's about 500 or 600 degrees. So it's nowhere near the 2,000 degrees that a chimney fire would have. But I lit that newspaper on fire, and sure enough, that chimney cracked in multiple places just from newspaper. So chimney fires are a big issue, but the easiest thing to do to prevent that is to have a chimney sweep come out and clean it.
So once that cracks, though, you're not going to, as a user, you're not really going to know about that. And the superheated air and or flames could be going right through those cracks into your attic space.
Right. Yep. And another issue is that creosote that we talked about earlier in the show could also be getting through those cracks and building up in places where it's not supposed to.
Wow. That's definitely not a problem you want to have. So if somebody has, whether it's a metal flue or whether it's a ceramic, let's address the ceramic. Let's say that they've had a chimney fire, or that they're concerned that there has been a chimney fire. How can they tell if there's cracking? Is that something you can find when you're doing your chimney sweep? And if there has been cracking, what do they do?
Yeah, great question, Mike. So for my company, and I can't speak to all the chimney sweeps, but the protocols and standards that we've developed for our company is anytime we go out to do a chimney cleaning, you don't get a choice, you're going to get an inspection too. And there's 3 different levels of inspection per the National Fire Protection Association. And so we always include a level 1 inspection, which there's 33 points that the NFPA requires us to look at with a level 1 inspection. And it's a real basic inspection. It doesn't require us to disassemble anything or take anything apart or drill holes in the wall to look at anything. Real basic. Mm-hmm. So most of the time we can determine if there's major glaring issues with that level 1 inspection. Occasionally, there's certain criteria that would warrant a level 2 inspection, which is just more detailed. That's where we're crawling into the attic, taking a look around. I actually will run a camera through the chimney. That's required as part of a level 2 inspection. We're crawling underneath the house into the crawl space if that's accessible. Sure. We're looking at a whole lot more stuff as part of the system to make sure that there aren't any of those hidden issues that sometimes come up. But if they have a ceramic chimney and I'm out there doing a level 1 inspection, typically when I get up on the roof, I can tell, I can just shine a flashlight down there and see those cracks in the chimney liners. And I'm trying to remember, I think on my website, I've got some of those pictures of those cracked ceramic tiles.
Okay. Yeah. So if you do perform your level 1 on a ceramic and you look down the chimney and you see some cracks, does that in itself then take you to the next level, mandatory?
Not necessarily, because right away we know, hey, we've got cracks, there's a problem.
Okay.
Now, if we start getting into repairs to fix those cracks, that's when I'm going to start I'm going to at least do a camera inspection. I may not do a full level 2 inspection. I call it a level 1 plus.
Gotcha.
That's where I'm doing my full level 1 inspection, but I'm also going to run a camera through the chimney just to make sure that there aren't any other issues.
Okay, so I've got a ceramic liner in my fireplace. The house is 25 years old, and I bought it secondhand, so to speak, so I'm not the original owner. Mm-hmm. I know I haven't had any chimney fires, but I don't know if the previous owner did. Yeah. You crawl up on the roof and you look down and you say, gee, Mike, looks like we've got some cracks in our liner. What do I do at that point?
Okay, great question. So you've got several options. Historically, the hearth industry would probably come in and they would knock out all those flue tiles and recommend installing a wood burning insert and running a flexible stainless steel liner up the chimney.
Okay, so to knock out those ceramic tiles or liners, how do you do that without a lot of destruction?
Well, there's going to be a lot of destruction. Gotcha. So basically they use rods that have almost like think of it like a bunch of little miniature wrecking balls on the end of a rod that's powered by a drill that spins, and it just pulverizes and knocks loose all those clay. Wow. It knocks them all apart and breaks them, and then they all fall down to the bottom of the chimney, and then you got to pick out all those pieces and pull them out. Yeah, it's a very involved job that is really not ideal.
But I have a feeling that there may be another alternative.
We've got options.
And so we're going to get into that in just a second, and we're going to figure out how that Jeff and his crew will make it accessible for Santa come Christmas time.
There you go.
So we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Good morning, Prescott. Mike Enders here with Bentry Custom Homes, interviewing Mr. Jeff Archer of Prescott Home Safety, LLC, on chimneys, dryer vents, etc. We'll get to the dryer vents in a second. In case you just joined us, Sandy is out of office today getting a cast removed, but she'll be up with us again next weekend. So we wish her a speedy recovery. So, Jeff, we were just getting ready to talk about chimney liners, the ceramic liners, and you've just discovered in my chimney that I've got some cracks. I need to address them, and my options are to eliminate the ceramic tiles by using the wrecking balls, which sounds pretty messy, and then coming back in with a chimney liner and a chimney insert. Or a box insert.
Yeah, wood burning stove insert. Yep.
But there's another option. So why don't you tell us what that option is?
Yeah. So several years ago, so to back up a little bit, I'm a certified chimney sweep through the Chimney Safety Institute of America.
Okay.
They're really the gold standard when it comes to chimney certifications and qualifications. And so part of that certification is I have to go to continuing education classes to maintain my certification. So several years ago, I took a comprehensive chimney inspections class where I learned a lot more about finding these cracked chimneys and all this stuff that we've already talked about. But through that class, I found out about this company called Saver Systems, and they make some really, really innovative products when it comes to chimney repairs, things that nobody else out there is doing. So I went through Saver Systems class to become a factory trained company. Currently, I'm the only company in the state of Arizona that's factory trained by Saver Systems. Yeah.
And where's Saver Systems based?
They're based out of Indiana.
Gotcha.
Yep. And a lot of their products are very popular on the East Coast and in California. But as far as the other Western states, for whatever reason, a lot of the chimney sweeps really aren't tapping into the services, or I guess the products that Saver Systems offers. So part of what Saver Systems does is they offer this product called Heat Shield, where it's a product that we can apply to the inside of one of these cracked ceramic chimneys, and basically it restores it as good as new. And any of the listeners can, if they have a cracked chimney, they know they have a cracked chimney or they're worried about it, there's lots of stuff on YouTube and the internet. All you have to do is search Saver Systems Heat Shield, and there's going to be tons of information out there and pictures for you to look at. But one other thing to talk about that's worth noting with this Heat Shield reline system is a lot of times the ceramic chimney liners get what's called level 3 creosote. And we talked about creosote a little bit, and so there's 3 levels of creosote. Level 1 creosote is the stuff that any chimney sweep should be able to deal with, no problem. We come in, it's light and fluffy, we just brush it out, and you're nice and clean, ready to go. Level 2 creosote is when it starts getting a little bit shiny, a little bit crunchy, has been exposed to some higher heat, but hasn't quite had a chimney fire, but it's ready for a chimney fire.
Gotcha.
You definitely can still remove level 2 creosote with just a conventional sweeping, but you need to get it done, because if you don't, you're going to be having a chimney fire soon. Level 3 creosote is typically after the chimney fire, and it's all that level 2 creosote that's burned, and it's gotten kind of tarry and gooey. It's liquefied, but it's re-hardened. So what happens is when that chimney fire is happening, all that creosote gets liquefied, and it soaks into the clay flue tile. Yeah, so I can't apply a Heat Shield reline if there's level 3 creosote that is soaked into those clay flue tiles. So we've gotten trained by Saver Systems to apply another product called Poultice Creosote Remover, and it's actually a chemical treatment that we apply to the inside of that clay flue tile, and we let it sit for about 4 days. 96 hours is minimum what we need to let it sit for. And it actually, through a chemical process, leaches, basically sucks out that level 3 creosote, and so we'll be left with a perfectly clean chimney after applying that Poultice Creosote Remover.
So does that just end up pulling out and liquefying to where you can brush it, or does it take care of it by itself?
Well, so the Poultice Creosote Remover, we call it PCR because we like things simple, so we keep it short. So when we apply the PCR, it's almost like a thin pudding consistency when we apply it, and we can apply it with a special applicator sponge to the inside of the flue tile, but we can also apply it with a drywall texture gun to the inside of the firebox and the inside of the smoke chamber. So we can cover all parts of the system with the PCR. But it's a thin pudding consistency, and then after 96 hours of sitting there, it dries, and a lot of it will actually flake off with that creosote.
I'll be darned.
And so we come back in after it's dried, and we sweep it just like we would do a normal chimney sweeping.
That's what I was wondering.
We knock loose all that PCR with the level 3 creosote that is absorbed, and then it's just like a normal chimney sweeping, and then once we're done, it's a nice clean chimney.
And then you can go ahead and apply the
Then
product.
we can do the reline. So there's some times where I'll do a chimney inspection and maybe their chimney's not cracked, but they have excessive level 3 creosote, we still recommend doing that PCR treatment even if they don't need a reline, because that level 3 creosote that is soaked into the clay can still burn. It's still flammable and can still present a safety issue with a chimney fire.
Now, once you have the product installed, and I'm assuming you don't just address the areas that are cracks, you address the entire flue system.
Correct.
So once that's applied, you still need to have your chimney swept, though, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So, when we do a reline, we reline the entire chimney. And something to note, too, is it's not just for cracked flue tiles. Another problem we find commonly is missing or deteriorated mortar joints between those flue tiles.
Sure.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that you absolutely need to have a chimney cap on your clay. If you have a clay chimney, you have to have a chimney cap, because what happens is the rain will get down in there and it mixes with the creosote and it forms hydrochloric acid. And it will actually rot out that acid will rot out those mortar joints.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Acid and cement are not friendly to each other.
No.
Or I should say that acid isn't friendly to the concrete.
Right.
So, well, that's very interesting. So, now does it make any sense for somebody to treat the interior of their firebox with this liner also?
Not necessarily the inside of the firebox. If there's issues with the inside of the firebox, usually we want to bring in a mason. And actually, the mason that I use is a mason that's recommended by Sandy. Him and I have a great relationship. Adam Brock. You can call Sandy and get his number if anybody needs a good mason. But usually when I find those issues with the firebox, I refer folks to Adam, and he does phenomenal work.
Come back in and redo or reline the firebox itself.
He's a true artist. I don't have that artist knack like Adam does with the brick stuff.
Oh, that's super. So we're going to have to take another break, but I really appreciate you taking the time to explain this liner, because if I was the owner of that house that I was just talking about, I'd feel a heck of a lot better now. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned, folks. We're going to take another quick break, let you hear some great messages from our advertisers. So get up, stretch, get that other cup of coffee, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Good morning, Prescott. We're again having a great conversation with Mr. Jeff Archer, who is the owner of Prescott Home Safety, LLC. And they are experts, licensed, bonded, and insured to fight fires in chimneys, also in dryer vents, which we haven't covered yet. So why don't you segue over to the dryer vents, unless is there anything else that we wanted to talk about with the chimneys?
Oh, I could talk about chimneys all day, Mike. Yeah, the chimney stuff is ongoing. There's some other repairs and things that we can talk about with the chimneys, but we can if you want to make sure we cover dryer vents, we can definitely get into that. And
but a good point. And before we switch to dryer vents, my mistake. One of the things we were just talking about off air was the spark arresters.
Sure.
So why don't you get into what's required by code, what's not required by code, and what you folks can do, because you can implement those repairs.
Right. So a spark arrestor is typically included in the chimney cap. And a chimney cap should be on every single wood-burning appliance. In the chimney inspection classes that I've taken, they teach us that water is a chimney's worst enemy. Water will ruin a chimney faster than anything else. And it's kind of that thing that goes unseen with the water damage. But speaking of the spark arrestor specifically, it's not required by code. The International Residential Code requires that there be a cap, but it leaves the spark arrestor up to the local authority having jurisdiction. So the county or the city building authority, they're the ones that get to determine if they want to make an amendment to include spark arresters in the code or not. To my knowledge, none of our local AHJs have included spark arresters in the code amendments. Now, should you have one? Absolutely. I think everybody should have a spark arrestor on their cap. because our gutters get full of pine needles and leaves and things like that, and all you need is one little ember to sneak its way out of your chimney and land in a gutter full of pine needles, and now we've got a much bigger problem.
Yeah, it surprises me because as we were also talking off air, one of the concerns with fire prevention is to make sure that if you've got attic vents and screening, first of all, you need to have screening behind those vents to keep embers from coming into your attic. And the size of those screenings have been reduced from 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch.
Oh, okay.
The whole idea is to keep those embers out of your attic. But yet we're not protecting those embers from coming through sparks out of your fireplace, which just amazes me that we don't require that.
Yep. Yeah, we have codes to keep sparks from coming in the house, but from a wildfire, but nothing to keep the sparks from flying out into the woods.
And as you said, especially for these houses that are out in the more heavily forested areas, there's, no matter how diligent you are about keeping the pine needles and pine cones out of your gutters, there's more than likely always going to be some pine needles on your roof, and those sparks love dried pine needles.
They absolutely do. And another thing to think about too, Mike, with the spark arrestor is it's not just a spark issue, it's also an animal issue. So by putting a screen spark arrestor on your cap, we're going to keep those critters from getting down inside your chimney. And in fact, just yesterday, we went out to a property and installed a spark arrestor for a customer because he was telling me that he kept getting birds inside of his fireplace.
Yeah, whether it's birds or squirrels or what have you. So, that's very discerning for somebody to be sitting in their family room. All of a sudden they hear the flapping of a bird who can't get back out. And then they make the call and say, what do I do? How do I get this bird out of here? So, spark arrestor is a great idea for not just the sparks, but for multiple purposes.
Right. Yep. Back on the topic of water problems with our chimneys, earlier I was talking about the company Saver Systems with the PCR treatment and the heat shield reline, but we were also carrying a lot of their products specific to dealing with leaky chimneys. And a few of those products, just to mention, we can come in with a elastomeric coating for chimney crowns that are cracked to reseal those crowns. Sometimes the crowns, and for those who don't, when I say crown, if they don't know what I'm talking about, that's basically the very top of the chimney, the masonry part of the chimney that is basically the cap, not necessarily the cap for the chimney pipe, but the cap for the whole brick chimney. And
that should, the way I'm sure that it got its description as far as a crown, is that it's built up to where it will drain water from the center out towards the outer edge.
Yeah, it's supposed to shed water onto the roof or off of the house, but oftentimes, especially here in downtown Prescott, we've got some of these houses that are 50 to 100 years old, and those crowns are cracked. They're in really rough shape. If it's really bad, then we've got to come in, we've got to pull the whole crown off and re-pour a new one out of concrete. But if it's just got a few not necessarily hairline cracks, but a few cracks, maybe up to 1/8 of an inch wide, we can come in with this crown coat, reseal that thing, and get at least another 10 or 15 years out of that crown.
And I'm sure that's one of the things that you do as a normal chimney investigation, and when you're doing your sweeping, is you look to make sure that all your collars are properly installed, that there's not a missing collar to where there's a gap going down, etc.
Yeah, in fact, on my chimney inspection checklist that our company uses, there's a weather resistance category where we've got probably about a dozen different things that we look at to make sure that chimney is going to keep the weather out.
Perfect. So now I've got to segue over to the dryer vents.
Yeah, let's talk dryer vents.
I know that's another issue that can certainly be a problem for people. So tell us what the procedure is with the dryer vent, because in many respects, some of the brushing is almost similar to the fireplace.
Right, yeah. It's instead of cleaning creosote out of a chimney, we're cleaning lint out of a dryer vent. Very similar tools. We do have some other things in our toolbox for dryer vents. specifically air-powered equipment. So, a lot of plumbers will use a tool called a reverse jetter. Some people have seen it, but basically it's a tool that goes into a sewer pipe and spins around and blows high-pressure water backwards to blow out clogs in a sewer drain. We have a similar tool that goes into a dryer vent, but it's 100% air-powered. And we've got big, gigantic gas-powered air compressors on all of our trucks that pumps high-pressure air into these dryer vents, knocks all that lint loose, and blows it right back out at us. And we do that cleaning from the outside. So the nice thing about our service is we can come into somebody's property and we do an inspection behind the dryer, but we do our cleaning with that air-powered equipment from the outside so that the mess is outside and not in the laundry room.
So that was one of my first thoughts when you were describing this, is that hopefully those jets are blowing forward, assuming that you were going at it from the dryer, but you're actually coming at it from the outside, which is great because that eliminates the dust and all the mess from coming into the house.
Yeah, and I've got some of those videos on my YouTube channel also. If you just go to YouTube and search Prescott Home Safety, you'll find us, but we've got a bunch of videos of us doing those dryer vent cleanings, and some of them are pretty disgusting.
Pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
So what, besides the fact that it's restricting the airflow and making your dryer work harder, what, from a safety standpoint, if your dryer vent's not cleaned on a regular basis, what happens?
Okay, so quite a few things. So as that dryer vent builds up with lint, like you said, the airflow gets restricted. But what happens is that air and that pressure has to go somewhere. And so you'll have a bunch of little gaps and cracks inside of the venting in your dryer itself. And so what happens is all that lint starts building up on the inside of your dryer appliance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's where the heating element is, right? Whether it's a gas or electric dryer, you start getting lint that builds up on that heating element, and that's where your dryer fire starts.
Gotcha.
A lot of people think that it starts in the vent itself. Very rarely does the dryer fire ever start in the vent. It starts in the appliance. Due to the lint buildup, and it's building up in the appliance because the vent is clogged.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then another thing that we find all the time because of people not getting routine cleanings is bird nests inside the dryer vent.
Really?
Birds love to nest in dryer vents, especially we'll get calls in the spring and early summer. People say they'll call up the office and they'll say, "Hey, my dryer's been fine, but all of a sudden this week it's taken me 3 cycles to dry my clothes." We go out there and we take a look, and sure enough, there will be a bird nest in there completely 100% blocking the vent.
Wow. It's interesting because animals will find perfect places for refuge. And one of the things that we find in putting French drain systems in around the footings is when you lead that to the outside area so where it can drain, if you don't put a grate on that, pack rats, mice, rats love those things because they can get in there. They're protected. Great place for nests. The only problem is it ruins your concept of your whole drainage system.
Right. And you mentioned the rodents, Mike. The same thing will happen with a dryer vent that's close to the ground. The bird nests, we typically get those when they're higher up off the ground. But I've found so many times where we get a dryer vent that's close to the ground and we end up with rodent issues.
Interesting. Those little critters find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Jeff, we have to take a quick break. So again, folks, thanks for tuning in to Hammer Time. Hang tight because we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Welcome back, Prescott, and thank you for tuning in this fine Saturday morning or Sunday if you didn't make yesterday's airing. We have had a great conversation with Jeff Archer from Prescott Home Safety LLC. Learned a lot about chimneys, what to do, what not to do, dryer vent cleaning, etc. And I want to turn it over to Jeff to make sure that you're able to contact him because everybody's going to need Even if you don't have a fireplace, you've more than likely got a dryer, so you can use his services. So, Jeff, why don't you share methods of contact with our audience?
Yeah, best way to get a hold of us is to call the office. My wife is going to be the one talking to you on the phone. Her name's Erin. Phone number there is 928-771-6034. You can find us on the internet too, PrescottHomeSafety.com. We're on all the social media venues too, Nextdoor, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
You're out there.
We're all over the place. Yep, we make it so that people can find us easily.
Well, that's terrific. And again, that phone number is 928-771-6034. Please, for your own safety, have Jeff come out and take a look. He and his employees come out and take a look at either your fireplace or your dryer vent and get that taken care of before the winter comes on and you end up with a problem. So thanks again for tuning in to Hammer Time. Have a safe weekend, and we'll be back next Saturday. Bye-bye.
Hammer Time.
Thank you for tuning in to Hammer Time. Waking Up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Heard each and every Saturday morning at 7, with an encore presentation Sunday mornings at 7 on AM 1130 by 99.9 FM in Prescott, 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, and online at kqna.com. A library of past Hammer Time shows can be listened to on the Yavapai County Contractors website at ycca.org.
Break it down.